Okay, fam. Tom Lee just talked about Nvidia yet again, and this time it's even better than it was before. If you guys are holding Nvidia, it is the perfect time to be in because the stock is going to run over the next 6 months to a year. We get a lot of things going on with Nvidia. Right now, there's been pullbacks over the last month, but the entire market has pulled back. And typically in September, the markets are rough. It's one of the worst months of the year historically, and pretty much 10 out of the last 10 Septembers, when we're down, we close the month down. Although this time around, we have basically gained back most, if not all, of the losses just about. And with the Feds getting ready to cut interest rates this week, hopefully it's on a dovish soft landing or no landing. But with the interest rates being cut this week, it's going to be kind of a bullish run. So we could have a pretty neutral September, which is saying a lot compared to the history. Nvidia is a great stock to invest into. Let's not think about the fact that Nvidia pulled back to $90, $95, and $100 a few times over the past 2 months. But let's think about how fast this company has grown. The year-over-year growth, quarter-over-quarter growth, the revenue, and to think about the Blackwell chips that have been delayed, which is the reason why Nvidia is kind of down over the past couple of months, or it's part of the reason. The market sentiment, the elections are playing into this, the Fed's interest rate cuts, the PMI data, the inflation worries, all different kinds of things play into it. And most of it's not Nvidia's fault, but the Blackwell chip delay didn't really help things either. But with the next earnings coming up being pretty good and going to the following earnings and into the new year, Nvidia is going to run pretty nicely. I think that Nvidia is going to run quite a bit in November after the elections into December and January. This is a great stock, and you guys need to understand that it's a long-term hold. Nvidia grows rapidly. It overtook Apple in market cap briefly this year, and that's saying a lot. But let's take a listen to what Tom Lee has to say
about some broader issues, particularly mega caps versus small caps. We saw a big comeback for Nvidia. We saw really some continued flexing strength from the likes of Apple, which is now, I would say, firmly on top in the market cap race, such as it is. And then we've seen small caps struggle more than some might have hoped. So today is an exception. Which is more influential in this market?
They're both important, and they reflect different, investor views. I think you still always want to own the best companies in the most important themes. I mean, that's Nvidia and that's Apple. And they're going to really work over any cycle. But when the market begins to believe the Fed is going to move rates back towards neutral, and that's both cost of money, mortgages, auto loan rates, these are really big tailwinds for cyclical stocks and small caps in particular. So I think that's why I'd still want to make a very educated bet with high probability that small caps could do very well the next 12 months, and even between now and year end.
It's been a while since we've talked about your granny shots. Remind us what your thesis is behind some of these stocks that you like.
Yes. Well, Granny Shots is built on the idea that there are themes like secular drivers of an economy. And our original Granny Shot model looked at AI, cybersecurity, energy security, millennials as a generation. And then we want to own the best stocks in those themes. And that's really what was the genesis of the Granny Shots. And the names like Nvidia, Apple, Nvidia has been in that list since 2019. So I think it's always important for investors not to be trading the best names, but to really find the best companies and hold them for the cycle.
Okay, good reminder. Tom Lee, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
So you heard what he said, pretty much the same things I said, but not to mention Nvidia and Apple are the two best stocks to hold on to for long-term growth. And that's true because Apple right now and Nvidia are already above their pandemic 2021 high. Most other stocks are nowhere near that. The only stocks that even come close is Nvidia, which they've passed it. Apple, they've passed it. And Palantir, they're right up there again. There's a couple other stocks we could talk about. Right now, we're going to keep it about Nvidia, briefly about Palantir and Apple because Tom Lee mentioned Apple. However, we have to understand that investing is different than trading. It's long-term. It's safer, which is what I teach my students. I teach my students a way to sell puts and calls and trade and understand the fundamentals and the technicals of the market, investing in good companies. This way, way, most of the trades work out perfectly. And when they start to go against you, you can just hold long term and recoup your losses. By playing the cards the right way in the stock market and investing long term, if you can mix everything up in your portfolio and diversify properly with my strategies, you can grow at a pretty exceptional rate. The S&P 500 returns 10 to 12% per year roughly. My students are seeing 10 to 15% per month, and some students 30 or 40% depending on the size of the portfolio and the trades and risks that my students are taking. But on average, 10 to 15% signifies about a 60 to 100% or more return every year. That is 10 times more than the S&P 500. I have hundreds of students all doing this right now. So if you guys would love to take advantage of this limited offer with limited spots in my coaching and Discord, I would love to help you achieve your financial freedom. I offer a full training course, Discord, and one-on-one coaching where I will help you understand everything you need to know to grow your portfolio. You guys can sign up at investwithcorey.com right there on the screen. The link is also in the information box below. Like I said, it's a very serious mentorship, so you have to take the first step to committing to growing your financial wealth and freedom, and I will show up and do my best to help you get there. I look forward to speaking with you, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Let me show you what I would do on Nvda as far as selling puts to get in, but not only selling puts. So you guys can see how Nvda has kind of hit a ceiling over the last couple of months. Things were really good with Nvda until about the middle to end of July. It started pulling back. We had that major market pullback at the beginning of August. Then it ran right back up again near the end of August. And then it pulled back again. And now it's running up to a decent amount. It's like 120 right now. So the way it's looking, we have the head and shoulders pattern. And based on that, it's likely we could come back up to around 130, 134, 137, and then come back down and kind of consolidate in the 123 range. I'm really hoping to at least get up around 127 this week and next week, but it's also likely we could consolidate here and pull back a little bit more because the 100-day moving average we just crossed over, and it could come up a little more and then come down and meet that 100-day average somewhere around the 116 to 118 range. But I think it's going to consolidate a bit. I really do. And I think that it's likely we'll see a nice run somewhere like the last week of September, beginning of October, where we're going to be back up around 128. By the end of the year, though, there's no doubt in my mind, like Tom Lee was saying, it's a great stock. It's the two best stocks are Nvidia and Apple. I would look at this chart and see that based on this slight downtrend, we're going to come back up here, kind of come back down, and then there'll be some sort of run over here where it'll climb up. Somewhere between end of September and beginning of November, there could be a decent run. And after the elections, it could run even more. But when you look at this uptrend, up, pull back, up, pull back, consolidation, maybe up a little bit, and then another run. The end of the year high is about 145, 140 roughly. And then as we go into the next year, consolidate and go up even higher, we could see a price target this time next year of about $175 to $180. So it's very likely that Nvidia could be anywhere between 150 and 180 12 to 18 months from now. In fact, it's highly likely Nvidia is going to be above 150 by the end of the year. And based off of their market cap, their price to earnings, price to sales, based off of their growth in the Blackwell chips. So if everything is great over the next two earnings reports, that's going to set Nvidia up for a great run going to the first half of 2025. That's what we're waiting on right now. Blackwell chips going to be fully available by the end of the year, November, December time, I believe is what they said. So you figure the earnings report after the next one is going to be very critical. So I believe that is the next earnings is November 14th. So February's earnings is going to be really critical. February's is going to encompass everything in December and January, which are the critical months for Blackwell. So the next earnings, if it's good and PMI data is good in October, November, then it'll run a bit. We might even see 140, 150 by then. But in February, if that earnings is stellar and beats all the estimates and Blackwell and everything is good with the chips and the servers and there's more growth and everything is pretty much bullish and dovish on this situation and rate cuts are going well, which they should be, and PMI data is good every month going forward and inflation's being reduced and it's dropping closer to the Fed's 2%. With all of this combined, which there's a lot of it in the market, market with everything I just said, if all of that works out, then there's no reason why Nvidia on earnings in February and going through March and April can't run to 160, 170, maybe even 180. Getting a 200% return out of Nvidia right now is fairly easy based on how fast this company has grown. They're at 119 now, but we're likely in the next week or two or sometime this month, we'll probably have a pullback to 114, 115. And if you can get in there in the next 12 to 18 months, $170 to $180 is not far off and very likely, which means in the next 2 to 3 years, Nvidia could very easily be over $200, which gives you double your money, 200% or 100%. It's a 2x return. So with that being said, if Nvidia, if you can get it at 115, very well could run to 180 by the beginning to middle of next year. And in the next 12 to 18 months, it's very realistic that Nvidia could reach 200, maybe even a lot higher, signifying 100% return. It's a 2x return. And if you're willing to hold Nvidia really long term, let's say 2029 or 2030, I would say my price target there is pretty much concise with everything that Tom Lee has ever said, or even Dan Ives. My price target on Nvidia for the most part going to 2030 is about $300 to $400, maybe a little higher, but it's going to take some time. This is a long-term investment, but it's hard to say that far out. It would not surprise me for Nvidia to be well over 200 in the next 5 years. I think 300 is definitely likely, especially how fast this company grows, but they have a lot of work cut out for them to break the $200 to $225 threshold. I think it can be done. The shares float is a little high for that to happen. The market cap would increase, and to go over $200 would put them at like a $5+ billion market cap, which puts them at a valuation of almost double Apple or Microsoft, which is a lot. They can do this because they are the biggest AI hardware player in the world with servers, GPUs for gaming, pretty much the whole package. AI, they have their hands in SoundHound. So this is another big thing as well. Also serve robotics. So when the robots start being produced and the robotic industry gets bigger, Nvidia is also involved with that. So it's not hard to think that between serve robotics, SoundHound, they're working with Elon Musk and Tesla and them buying up all the servers and processors, everyone else that's buying servers, the fact that they're segueing all of this technology out there, it is not beyond the scope of possibilities that Nvidia could reach 200 by next summer or the end of 2025, and potentially $300 or $400 in the next 3 to 4 years. In fact, it's really not that far out of the realm of possibility at all. And in fact, it's rather on the more likelihood side of things because of the fact of them being the biggest player in the industry. But only time will tell. But right now, 200% is very possible in the next 3 to 4 years on Nvidia. But I would say that we should close the year, I would think, a lot higher than where we are now, like 140, maybe 150. But it's ultimately hard to say these things. But these are just my estimates of the stock. I could be wrong. Nvidia could pull back and not really run that hard. And then next year, as we go through the year, it could run like crazy. But Nvidia is a very strong stock. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you buy now and hold long term, you can't really lose money unless the company sucks, and Nvidia definitely doesn't suck. And that's exactly what Tom Lee just said. Thanks so much, guys, for being here. Like I said, if you guys want to sign up for the Discord, coaching, and full training course, take control of your financial future, you guys can do so. InvestWithCorey.com right there on the screen. Link is in the information box below, and I will see you guys on the next video. Take care of yourselves.